only when it is overflown, and then it will reach Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Antioch may have been quite different, because Antioch, for one, is the end of the earth. Second, that is right in the middle of the world. And third, Christians were not a privileged class. So that's where our comparison may come. Now, I'd like to spend the rest of my time on the slowly built, knowingly accumulated assumptions of mission. For me, it is critical for us to recognize that and to have a critical look at that before we can explore healthy theologization. The following discussion is to challenge several key mission assumptions slowly accumulated throughout centuries in the West, and thus the rest have received. They are not necessarily adopted as rules or requirements for mission. However, for the emerging churches in the South, they have clearly been present through missionaries in their life and work and mission field. Number one, only Christian nations do mission. The 1910 Edinburgh Conference was planned, organized, and run by Western churches with a small group of delegates and invitees from some mission fields or beneficiaries of mission activities. Although the term Christendom may not have been used during the conference, in the back of everyone's mind, it must have been assumed that only after a country has been fully evangelized or Christianized, and thus the nation earned the right to be a missionary nation. This seems to just be a natural, given as the missionary direction will flow from the gospel rich to gospel poor. Today, this assumption is challenged by two realities. First, it is no longer 100% Christianized nations that send their missionaries. Many new missionary mega powers, Brazil, India, Korea, China, are not Christian countries. It is a striking challenge that the millennium edition of the Operation World puts Mongolia as the number one missionary sending country per capita. Mongolia was less than 10-year-old Christian at the time. Christianity was less than 0.5%. Economic level still coming out of its communist destructive power. Now, to the historically oriented eyes will say, how in the world you think you can do mission? I think it's a good challenge to us. And I always remind myself, the most active evangelizer is somebody who just became Christian within 3 months. Now, only Christian nations do mission. Nowhere we read, nonetheless, this is an assumption that has been deep in our psyche, has several important implications. The second one is that this time a reverse argument also proves the challenge as well. Now, all Christian nations are missionary entities. But I'm leading a small school with 40, perhaps different countries, but more importantly, is clearly ecumenical from Catholic, Orthodox, to all the way to African independent churches. Now, oftentimes, when I have student and Christian leaders, your nation, your church is more than 80% Christian. Why don't I see your church a powerful missionary? The number one very unfortunate answer is we don't have money. That will challenge us very seriously. Now, second assumption, which is certainly related, is only resource-rich countries can do mission. It was a historical reality. The Western nations, certainly developed nations, undertook missionary activities. I'm sure not even the slightest suggestion has been made that only rich countries can do mission. However, the mission players of the last 200 years at least were all from economically resourceful countries. One may argue that the cause and effect should be reversed. That is, mission commitment has resulted in God's blessing. To the eyes of the rest of the world, however, finance has become an assumed priority requirement for mission. And this has often been the first excuse of Christian rich countries that engage in mission. Today, in spite of the criticism that few missionary churches tend to follow the old established Western missionary paradigms, very unfortunately, including Korean missionaries, signs abound to suggest that new emerging churches do not wait to have a certain economic level before they begin missionary engagement. The Mongolia, again, is case in point. The story of the early church's expansion in the first century would be more according to this paradigm, with Galilean fishermen reaching out to Roman citizens. The apostles' emphasis on work and preach may be an indication of their subsistence as much as their principle of self-support. The nameless missionaries or mission players, certainly they did not know. When in Acts 11 may shed light on our discussion. When fleeing the persecution in Jerusalem, some traveled as far as Phoenicia, Cyprus, and Antioch. The impression is such that from Jerusalem, they were reaching the ends of the earth, not for their economic might. In fact, their subsistence may have opened a creative space for them to engage with people with the gospel. The third one, mission is by the developed to developing or underdeveloped countries, related certainly to this idea of first world doing the mission to the two-thirds world. Again, the historical reality has shaped this assumption in our minds. Today, if we claim and we celebrate that more than two-thirds of global Christians live in the global south, or developing but mostly underdeveloped world countries, then what is the Holy Spirit speaking to us? Here is one powerful example. If I see our Filipino brothers and sisters, I want you to know that I'm your kababayan. It was published some time ago. The Muslim converts in the Middle East, through the domestic helpers, Filipino helpers, outnumbers the total converts through missionaries in the Middle East. Now just think, what does it illustrate? What is the biggest difference? One group, no power, they are there to serve. They are not there to teach. They do not know they have a mission calling even. However, the other group, well trained, well supported, they are there to serve, to teach, to lead, enlighten. I'm not trying to glorify one side and downplay the other. We need both. Nonetheless, the life of Jesus Christ looks much closer to the Filipino helpers. That's an important lesson to us. Now, summary. It's a stark reminder that even yesterday, or was it this morning, that the remark of the Pope Francis was quoted. If the church is going to reach and serve the poor, the church must be poor. That's important. I'm not talking about another power dynamic. Please do not misunderstand. I'm not saying that finally the time has come, the South will rise. No, I'm not saying it, please. Because the mission paradigm theologization process that Holy Spirit is telling us, showing us today, that we'll do together, is very much like the life of Jesus Christ. Emptying himself, came to serve until he gives his own life. That is theological future that we have. The journey is resonated in the remark of the Pope. The church needs to be poor to serve the poor. And I may even add, to serve the Lord